Hello, Mr. Baker. I'm Heather Marshall, and on behalf of myself and the company I represent, I want to thank you for the opportunity to act as your managerial consultant as you work toward the goal of implementing Pulse Exercise Systems' new customer relationship management software. I've read through your notes, and if I'm understanding correctly, there's a firm deadline on this 10-week project. So that seems really aggressive for a new software implementation, but it sounds like Pulse is making progress toward that deadline. Part of having an aggressive timeline like this is being able to lead a team through it. So just as a reminder, managing a team requires being really organized and knowing how to define your project's goals, and it sounds as though you have that part down really well. But leadership is being able to influence your team in a way that helps them reach their goals. So let's talk about your leadership style as I perceive it from our initial conversation. You seem to have a pretty interactive relationship with your team. There's a lot of collaboration going on and you are in frequent contact with them. But where this leadership style is breaking down is in the level of consideration that you show for your team as individuals rather than as a team that can help you get farther in your career. Reading through some of the conversations you've had with your team, some of them seem to have a lot of stress because they're feeling threatened by the aggressive deadline. The employees based in LA aren't as stressed, probably because they don't have the same work-life balance needs as the employees based in Chicago. The Chicago team members have family lives that require their attention outside of work. And so these are some of the things that we need to address, and I think we have a path forward using a combination of leadership techniques. Level 5 leadership is based on the idea that there are 5 ascending levels of hierarchy in a manager's capabilities. And from what I've seen, you've mastered the first few levels of that hierarchy. But the backbone of this leadership style is humility. I think this is an approach that would be valuable to you and to how your team perceives you, because right now it's really obvious that part of your drive is to make this project successful, and it's based on your own ambition. What your team needs from you is a leader who is as invested in their success as you are in your own. The second leadership technique I think you should consider is that of servant leadership, leading your team in a way that prioritizes their success and ultimately the organization's success is going to require you to change some of the ways you interact with them, and it will help you better see where they could use some extra support. With all of that in mind, here are the steps that I think you need to take in order to reawaken your team's enthusiasm and help them meet their project goal. First and foremost, you need to have conversations with each of your team members that focuses on what they need. You mentioned that Sally Phillips's departure was a mixture of not having a good work-life balance and because you were pretty blunt with her about her technological skills not being very proficient, at least not as proficient as other employees. In all other aspects of her job, though, she seemed to do really, really well. And I wonder if an offer to provide some extra skills training or, anything to get her on par with her coworkers technologically wise would have made her reconsider leaving. At this point, you'll either have to replace her with someone who does have all of those skills, or you'll have to delegate out her work, and both of those are going to be difficult. These conversations with your team members should happen ideally in person, but I know you're traveling quite a bit, and the second best option would be one-on-one virtual meetings. Secondly, it's probably time to have a project status summit meeting, and that can be virtual as well, with all of the players involved. Both the LA and the Chicago team need to be present to work through what's already been done, what's left to do before the project can be called complete, and figure out what the sticking points are that are causing issues in the project. When you have a comprehensive idea of exactly where the project's at and what the team needs in order to make the deadline, you need to escalate that to Nicole Davidson. Ultimately, this project falls on her as well, and if there's a risk to the established project completion date, she needs to know. Third, work with the LA and Chicago teams to think outside the box. Are there opportunities for delegating some of their work to each other? Every team member has strengths and weaknesses, and if the LA team can take on more of the time-intensive tasks because they've got the time and energy, and the Chicago team can take on more of the tasks that can be done during the normal work week, like administrative tasks. Introduce that idea of reciprocity between the teams so that they can each focus on what they can do best. You don't want to lose another Chicago employee. You want those talented team members to have a high level of job satisfaction. Lastly, I understand that you are looking down the road at your future with the company. The most logical next step in your career would be to succeed Nicole Davidson. I think adopting the techniques and thought processes inherent in the Level 5 and servant leadership styles would be extremely helpful to you. This will be a transformational process for you because you'll need to approach the entire concept of leadership differently than you do presently. These leadership models really put a focus on the success of the teams and of the organization rather than on yourself. I know that might seem counterintuitive right now as you're trying to figure out how to get yourself to Davidson's level, but ultimately what's going to leave the best impression and carry the most credit to you and your interpersonal skills as a leader is developing and maintaining a team that is not only successful at project completion, but is also made up of members who have a high level of job satisfaction and like working for you. I'm going to send you some resources on both the Level 5 leadership and servant leadership techniques, and I hope that as you start to make your way through them, they make sense. I welcome any questions from you, and I'm excited to see where this conversation leads. Thank you very much.